March is now over, and I was able to watch 10 new films that were released in March, so let's rank them. In last place, we have Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate. Do I really need to explain myself why this is placed where it's at? This movie is awful. It's not a good movie. It's just bland compared to everything else. It just ruins everything that made the original great. It doesn't really have a great story, doesn't really have great characters. Humor is not good either. Everything about this movie is bad. There is almost nothing good to say about this movie. Although I don't hate it as much as other people do, I still do not think there is a single good thing to say about this movie. And if this is not in my top 10 worst movies of the year list, we had a terrible year for movies. Let's just move on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. In ninth place, we have the Casagrande Movie. You might be wondering, why in the world did you watch this? Well, I grew up on The Loud House, and there was a spin-off show to that, and this movie is the movie to that spin-off show, so I watched it. It started off fine mythology in there, but then movie drastically dropped down to an uninteresting story, an uninteresting villain, and it just comes off weird. Out of all the plots you could have chosen, why would you choose this plot? It doesn't really match the characters. That's basically the same problem I had with the Loud House movie. That movie is worse though. This movie doesn't really have unnecessary musical numbers. So it is a step up from the Loud House movie, but it's not a great movie. It just comes off as pale, uninteresting. Better than Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate because it's more enjoyable. But again, if this is not in the worst movies of the year list, we didn't really have a good year for movies. In 8th place, we have Thundermans Return. Now, I didn't see the original Thunderman show, but I have seen Henry Danger, so I kind of know what to expect when going into these shows. When it comes to Thundermans Returns, what you would expect it to be. It kind of follows the same tone that these Nickelodeon superhero shows have. It follows that same tone throughout it, and I can see if you grew up on the original show, you're going to love this movie, but for me, from only growing up on Henry Danger, I kind of knew the tone to expect, but not my thing. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here that were just weird decisions they could have made. Now, like I said, you go into these movies expecting dumb stuff, but some weird stuff happens at sometimes. The movie feels longer than an hour and 10 minutes. There's a lot of problems in here. A great movie. It's not really a good movie either. It's just comes off as what you would expect it to be. But in 7th place, we have Spaceman. Now, I know a lot of people who love this movie, but I also know a lot of people who don't. I've kind of fallen right in the middle of it. I enjoyed most of it. I enjoyed, like, Adam Sandler and, like, character development with him talking to an alien. And the last 15 minutes of this movie, too, were pretty entertaining. But I feel like most of it is just Adam Sandler talking about his feelings to an alien. There's not much that really happens there. That's basically the whole movie. Till the last 15 minutes. This feels like a streaming movie. Exactly what it is. There to be put on streaming. It's that type of movie where it's just fine. But in 6th place, we have Roadhouse. This is a remake to the original Roadhouse, which I have never seen. I just decided to watch this movie instead. You can have fun with it. There's a lot of cool action in here. Like kind of like street fighting action. For Spaceman, this feels like a streaming movie. There's not much. A lot of people love it, saying it's a lot of fun. For me, I felt like this movie felt way too long for what it was. There were multiple scenes in this movie where it just felt like nothing happened. Those scenes were just there to extend the runtime. There's scenes you can easily cut out of this movie entirely and be perfectly fine. And this movie kind of has all the problems that a streaming movie would have, but you can have fun with it, but I wasn't a huge fan of this movie. In 5th place, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I wasn't a huge fan of this movie. Some people were, but I do appreciate them for giving us more lore, and I do think the villain in here could have worked as well. The movie was just a fun time. You could have had fun with it, but my problems go to the movie's too short for all the things that it's trying to tackle with all these plot threads, all these new characters, all these different stuff that they're introducing all at the same time. Makes for a short runtime and a very dense movie. That it just all doesn't flow very nicely, and the story is kind of all over the place to make a big jumble mess, and it doesn't really work. But you can have fun with it, you can enjoy it, but it's not that great of a movie, but you can enjoy it for bringing back the original cast, all that stuff, but I feel like the trailer promised a completely different movie that wasn't this. This kind of left me disappointed afterwards. Just to be clear, everything that was below this point I would not recommend. Now upwards I would recommend. In fourth place, we have Damsel. Now, going into this movie, I was expecting a completely different plot. I was expecting like a damsel in a tower that was sick of waiting for Prince Charming to show up, so they just decided to leave themselves and fight the dragon. That's not what this movie is. Completely different plot. But I was all in for the movie. I really enjoyed what kind of ideas they had in here. Now, there's some ideas where I was like, we could probably change that up a bit, but overall, this was a very solid watch. And I enjoyed it. And for being a Netflix movie too, there's a lot of stuff in here that I was really impressed by. But it has problems, but just expect a fun time in watching the movie. In third place, you have Kung Fu Panda 4. Now, this is definitely the weakest Kung Fu Panda movie by a long shot. This one doesn't have the same charm, doesn't have the same comedy, and just doesn't have everything that made the original trilogy the good that it is. You can still have fun with this movie. There's just a lot of problems in here. Like, I do like what they're doing by introducing a new trilogy to Kung Fu Panda, but it's just missing those few elements that made the original trilogy what it was, and all those special themes in there, and that just right comedy. It's missing all of that. Comes off with a fine villain, nice concept, but definitely could have been executed way better. In second place, you have Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. Now, in my opinion, this is probably the best MonsterVerse film we have. You can check out my ranking right here if you want to, but this movie fixes all of the problems that the other MonsterVerse movies have. It spends time with the human characters, but not as much. They're definitely chopping it down so that it is not there, and they're definitely trying to improve after film. Kong has a character arc. They actually spend time with Kong, and we spend most of the movie with him. This is basically his movie, which I like because I'm a Kong person, but this is his movie. If you're expecting more Godzilla or even that team up between Godzilla and Kong, that doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes of the movie, but when those last 20 minutes hit, those are the best parts of the movie, because that's what you went for. It's basically everything you want, a ton of fun. And yeah, this movie definitely fixed all the problems I had with the MonsterVerse and came out with a ton of fun. But of course, we all knew this when watching this video. Number one is Dune Part 2. Now, I technically watched this movie back in February, but the official release was in March, so it's on this list. When it comes to Dune Part 2, this movie's in my top 10 favorite films of all time. It's an amazing film. Amazing score. Amazing characters. Amazing story. Amazing world building. Amazing acting. Amazing villains. Amazing everything. This movie has it all. It's a phenomenal movie and is able to execute everything that was set up in Part 1 and make it better. It is amazing. If you have not seen this movie yet, why haven't you seen it yet? Go watch this movie. It's amazing. I cannot wait to see what they do with Dune Messiah, because the director said that he's not making the third one, only if it's better than this movie. And if you can top this movie, you're obviously doing something with Dune Messiah. But with that, that was my ranking of all 10 new releases I watched in March. If you like this video, maybe these ones on the side will interest you too. Make sure to hit that like button, share your ranking down below, and thanks for watching.